Live from lovely downtown Agoura Hills, California, it's Radio Free Hollywood.
This is Radio Free Hollywood.
For uncensored news, millions of Eastern Americans switch on Radio Free Hollywood, the new sound from outside.
This is Radio Free Hollywood.
I'm Steve Jacob, and I'm here with my co-host, John Kassir. Yeah. I'm the straight man,
music.
and he is the funny guy.
That was the music to Radio Free Europe.
No, it's not.
They played the neon lights were right on Broadway.
Oh, is that what you were saying? Yes.
yes.
I didn't recognize the way you were singing that. Okay. I recognize it now. Maybe you were just doing like the intro or something before. I don't know. I didn't see it. And
It was not random.
okay. Yeah, no.
From one musical theater guy to another.
Yeah, we just like totally missed that boat. So yes, for all of you listeners that all of you listeners that were listening to the line, this is now called Radio Free Hollywood. And it's called Radio Free Hollywood for some very specific reasons. Now we live in a very different kind of society than we lived in, say, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago for some reason. And, you know, we kind of feel like suddenly the people in the cradle of pop culture are suddenly the anarchists, and suddenly it's like we're living behind the blue curtain. And yeah, maybe that's the intro. It's like live from lovely downtown Agoura Hills and from far beyond the blue curtain, we bring you Radio Free Hollywood, news from the land of fruits and nuts.
Should it be from Hollywood?
It should be from Hollywood, but I think it's very ironic that we're doing that and not actually recording it. It's all Hollywood. As we talk about the news today, it's all Hollywood. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the fires today. We had our own experience with the fires. John and I live very close to each other, and the Kenneth fire.
Maybe too close.
Yeah, maybe too close.
We've been good
I've been
neighbors
meaning to
one
talk
another.
to you about that. I need you to like move.
Your wife found me my house.
I
so
know.
There you go.
Well,
so if there's anybody to blame.
I know how that blaming her. I know how that turns out. It turns out it's my fault somehow.
It would be marriage-free Hollywood.
Marriage-free Hollywood. Yeah. Anyway, the Kenneth fire. So the Kenneth fire started after Palisades in Eaton, and it was started outside of Hidden Hills. And I believe it was started by arsonists that could go into Hidden Hills then and ransack the place. But I believe they met some very stiff resistance once they tried to go into that neighborhood, as I think they forgot that they all have private security and private firefighters.
When you say they, you mean the arsonists.
The arsonists. So we got evacuated. And I got evacuated. John got evacuated. We all got evacuated. I had to get horses out. I did see John leaving in his car before I left. And you had a large amount of hats in your car.
Well, my wife and I had we had two small SUVs, a little, got the dogs in the car, got some, things you would want to take, and things you could fit in a car and take. And then my wife was like, I don't know what else to take. I was like, just if you have some room, grab some things that you think that you might miss if they weren't there. And we have these pegs on the wall in the foyer. It's really just a entranceway to the front door, with all kinds of fun different hats from different eras and that kind of thing. And my wife just took them all off the wall and stacked them like a cartoon and walked in and threw them in my car. And so I went to get in the car. I'm like, okay, well, at least I got a hat to wear. So I think I probably grabbed like 2 outfits to wear, one, all my underwear and socks, and threw them in the car, and along with
with 40 hats, along with 40 hats.
40 hats. So I could just change my look by changing a hat.
Exactly. People won't notice that you
which would blow off in the 100-mile-an-hour winds. But hey,
well, that's why you need 40. Because you need
why.
to keep. Oh, I'm sorry. We evacuated, and I had to take my horses up about 15 miles or so to a ranch that Trevor from my office and his mom were nice enough to arrange. And so we dropped them off there and went to a friend's house. And as soon as we got there, we heard, we got texts that there were looters in our neighborhood. So we put the dogs in the car and came back. And I think when I saw you when you were leaving, all of a sudden there was a big presence of police, both in uniform and plainclothes. And, up from you, 3 houses up from you, there's 2 cops live there, a husband and wife. They're both detectives. And there were a bunch of cops like walking around in their yard. And as I was driving back from Newbury Park, after hearing about looters, I'm like, yeah, we're not going to hear about looters anymore. They're probably in a bunch of shallow graves by now.
Right.
Because those guys don't fool around. They just...
No. I mean, I think they were also there if they needed to make it, to implore people to leave. I mean, there's a lot of neighborhoods where people just don't want to leave. There was a town hall meeting yesterday for people in Topanga, which I lived in for many years, which is a great community. They've been praised for their own, response, association that they have, their task. And that kind of thing. But a lot of those people in fires don't want to leave. They stay. And, people in this town hall were like grilling the fire department. They're like, why were you, I saw this fire here at the bottom of Fernwood and you guys weren't on it. He goes, well, unfortunately, we were up the top of Fernwood trying to get people to leave.
Yeah.
And he goes, when you don't leave, our first priority is human life. Our second priority is your home. So, if you want to talk to your neighbors about getting out of there so that we can fight the fire and protect your homes instead of worrying about being in the presence of people who won't leave. And I'm not judging those people. You do it.
I think you are a little bit.
No, I'm saying this is what saying this is what the fire chief said, and he has a right to say that if that's his situation. These guys are experienced in the best way to fight fires, and it's amazing how the current administration that just stepped in was so quick to judge the way that
we'll talk about that
this
some
state,
more.
The way this state handles emergencies when. It's been known for many, many years that there is no state or place in the world that has more prepared for any disaster than Southern California. Who could prepare for this?
No, you couldn't prepare. I think that, other than for you and me, once we were back from that evacuation, it was a short evacuation. It was only a day.
We're grateful. We have super gratitude for how quickly they knocked down that particular fire.
Yeah.
We were just lucky.
We
were
were
lucky though.
Yeah. We lost our power for about 4 days. That was the worst thing that
I've
happened
had
to
11
us.
days. I've had 11 days with no power since
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
the
But
beginning of the year.
right after that, it was 4 days. And then
Yeah.
we've had our power's been on and off for a couple of weeks now. And I feel like I'm dialed in now. It's like I got my backups, I got some solar going on. I have like a gas powered Jenny. And so like yesterday they shut it off again because the winds were up. And I got home from work and I like dragged the generator up, plugged in the refrigerators, the freezers, and I was pretty much done. Before I left for work, I had kind of rerouted the Wi-Fi and all the TVs. So
Where do you keep the generator when it's working?
in the barn. Oh, when it's on? Oh, in the middle of the
Yeah.
driveway. It's like needs lots of air. It's like you don't.
Yeah, no, they were talking this morning on the news about biggest cause of this time of year, the biggest cause of carbon monoxide deaths is caused by these
Wheel it right
generators.
into the middle of the living room and fire her up.
And that's what people do, or they
I
put them
know.
in the base. They put them in the basement,
Which is the
or
worst
they put them in
thing
a
you
laundry
can do.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like, what are you thinking?
No, I mean,
But
it's like it's a car engine, basically, is what it is.
oh,
And
my neighbors just got one, and it's huge.
it's
And
huge.
it sounded like eight people mowing the lawn at the same time for hours.
Yes.
And I was just like,
I'm-
really?
I'm one of those.
Can they
I'm
make
one of
something-
those people. When I start mine up, it does sound like we're holding drag races over.
But you can use your electric toothbrush.
Exactly. That's the point. My fancy Japanese toilet will now flush because I plug it into the generator,
Oh, really? I'd hook one up just for my bidet.
and I do. That's my point. There are things in this world that are important, and there are things in this world that are vital.
My wife laughs so hard when these situations happen because she'll inevitably hear across the house, "I can't believe I gotta wipe my own ass."
Oh my God. I think, for people doing this subversive radio free Hollywood thing, we're a little bit bougie. If we're sitting here talking about our bidets.
We're old. That's different.
Well, that's
It's like,
yeah.
it's a modern convenience, but it's, I'm obviously gilding the lily about the whole thing. It's, you don't know what you miss until you don't have it every day. But obviously, the bidet saves on paper products and all this stuff. I mean, there are actually ecological reasons, besides my own health, that I, have one of those in my home. But
You are really gilding the lily here. Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
got-
seriously,
You just like water blown up your ass.
no, there's nothing. Yeah, exactly. Which brings us to our butt boy
The
article.
Butt boy. We'll get to butt boy later. We'll get to butt boy later.
No, but seriously, the thought of losing everything you own is a really horrible thing. And I lived for years in Topanga Canyon, 31 years, and there were so many fires over the years. And the first fire that I went through, 93, I guess it was I had a small sports car, I had my dog, I had a couple of horses that I knew that people just out of the goodness of their heart showed up with trailers, duct taped your name and phone number on the horse's mane and took them.
It's
and you
not
didn't know
that
where they were
world
going.
anymore. When we were
Yeah.
evacuating, people were showing up with trailers and they were a little sketchy. And they
Yeah.
were really encouraging people to put their horses in their trailers. And people were
Oh,
like,
wow.
"No, I don't think so, dude." Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was happening right down on your street. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was weird. It was weird. Adrian noticed it and she was like, That's right around the time the cops showed up and they left.
Yeah.
Weird stuff is beginning to happen during these events. It's not as quite as community oriented. I think it's
Well, people are looking for any way to make a buck, I mean, it's just like
stealing horses. It used to be if you stole a horse, the owner could
Oh, yeah.
shoot you.
hang him from the highest tree.
That's
is
right.
how it went.
That's-
Fling, just hanging around.
That's
as the crypt keeper would
Cattle
say.
rustling.
It is.
But anyway, speaking of bad behavior, let's go to our first news story, which is Donald Trump in LA. So he is coming to Los Angeles to tour.
I'll believe it when I see it.
No, he's coming. He's coming. Absolutely. It was in deadline, and
Yeah.
but there's caveats here. First of all, he's showing up to tour things, but he didn't invite Governor Newsom.
No, of course he wouldn't, because he's going to be slamming him. Did you
The whole
watch
time.
the press conference in North Carolina this morning?
No.
Oh, he eviscerated the Biden administration and blamed everything that's happened in North Carolina on them and FEMA.
Well,
and he's
okay.
he's about to he wants to get rid of FEMA. He wants to make the states have to deal with any of their own
Disasters. Well, that's not
Disasters.
possible because when you get into the red states, even North Carolina, you get into Tennessee, you get into Alabama, those states
They
don't have the money. They don't have the money.
Yeah,
They
we
get
could
it
do
from
as
California.
long as we don't have to. As long as we don't have to send that money to the feds in lieu of being able to stop our disasters, we could do it on our own.
Well, see, that was the thing. He wanted to hold up money to California because he had caveats. And they're like loyalty caveats. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
The other one, who accidentally got invited was Chuck Schumer. No, not Schumer, Schiff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they asked Trump about it. And he goes, who invited him? He said,
Yeah.
I guess someone invited him. I didn't. It's that kind of thing.
What was the last? Was it the last? Was it the Woolsey fire when he was here, or something? I can't remember. Whatever it was, he was not going to come, and he was going to withhold funds, disaster relief funds, until he found out that there's a huge amount of Trump voters in Orange County,
Right. Yeah.
and they convinced him otherwise.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Not to mention,
Yeah.
Jerry Brown was the governor.
Yeah.
And Jerry Brown said, oh, yeah, withhold funding. We'll stop paying our taxes. And we pay a lot more than.
And we'll use it for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He's going on about how it's all about the water pressure. And I know the local authorities just said, yeah, you hook like 100 fire trucks up to the water system and the water pressure is likely to go down. It's like, and that's anywhere. That's not just here.
Yeah. No, he was blaming it on Newsom, saying that he was protecting some small little fish that they couldn't bring water from the north because it would kill off some species of
That's bullshit.
of tiny fish. He said that.
Yeah, maybe kill
Fibs
off.
from the crypt, kiddies.
Yeah.
By the way, who was it that insisted that we put Fibs from the Crypt on TikTok?
Donald Trump.
I'm just
No.
going to let that lay there. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
It was me. It was me. We have to get back to Fibs from the Crypt because there's so much material now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do that. Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, sorry. He's complaining about the water pressure. And as you recall, during the last bout of fires when he was in office before, he was saying it was all our fault because we didn't rake enough leaves. Now we don't have enough water pressure. So I would say he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Of course, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. It's it's political. And every channel that I turn to are going, why is he spending 7 minutes talking about how, like, he got all the votes in North Carolina and the last administration is the reason this is happening? Why are they not talking about helping us? He's like, what is this is the reason why we're having problems, because they're politicizing things that are supposed to be for the public. They're supposed to be in office to help the public. What are they doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
What the hell?
What the hell, John?
Today's segment of What the Hell?
What the hell? Yeah. Oh, okay. I can go with that. That's our second news story. Our second news story is Jean Smart. And Jean Smart, I generally like Jean Smart. I think she's a great actress.
Had dinner with her. She's a wonderful lady.
I bet she is, but she said something really stupid.
Well, she wasn't the only one. I think that she's not the one that started that. I think she was just the one that became vocal about it.
Oh, well, she's the one who got eviscerated for it, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, well, for people who don't know, Jean Smart made the suggestion that that they cancel all the award shows and they give all the money to fire recovery. Now, it's a lovely sentiment, but here's why she got eviscerated. Because by doing that, number one, you affect the economy, the LA economy, in a very negative way. And hundreds of people work on each of those shows. And there are people who are affected by the fires. And the biggest thing that they can do to recover is have work right now.
Yeah,
and
totally.
So by canceling those shows, you're putting all those people out of work. And it's all about the comments. Go into the articles and read the comments. People just
I know,
absolutely
because
wild.
the article doesn't eviscerate her at all.
It states fact. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it opens a dialogue about that kind of thing, but which I'm sure is what she aimed for. Sadly, it wasn't. The dialogue should have happened beforehand, and because you make great points, as do some of these people who are in the situation. Personally, I'm just so over award shows that we have so many of them.
I know.
With the same people. The one thing I'm happy about is I'm starting to see new people win awards, which is great. I get tired of it's like, who cares right now? Who cares? Especially since, it's such a difficult thing to be in a position to get up in front of people where historically a lot of people appeal to people to say, this is what's going on in the world. What can we do about it? When you have a platform to stand on, and the general public have become haters towards those people to even listen. So it's like celebrity's not even necessarily a good platform to hear it from anymore. So many people. I've had so many people go, what are we supposed to do about this if you don't agree with the current administration situation and it's going south and it's going to do this? What are you supposed to do? And so many people are like, well, you need to have conversations of discourse with the people And I'm like, that's the last thing that I know can happen, because people if I've learned one thing in the new world that we're living in, people double down if you try to challenge the choices they've made. Let them watch what happens, like the woman who was at January 6th and
decided to stay in prison. Yeah,
offered clemency for her crime. Said no. I drank the Kool-Aid, and I've grown to realize I was wrong, and this administration is wrong, and so I will serve my sentence for what I did. Will people go that far? I doubt it, but people, once what he's doing and this administration is doing affects a lot of people who voted for him, and he doesn't really care because it'll probably be I'm only saying probably because who knows what he'll be able to achieve in changing the laws in terms of serving more than 2 terms. But he doesn't care because he's going to get done what he wants to get done. And if it squashes half the people who voted for him, or even more than half the people he voted for, he started off by pissing all his MAGA people by taking it indoors and saying, well, you could watch from the Capitol One convention center. It's like, really? I gave you like $10 million, and I'm not allowed to come see you inaugurated. It's like,
more about. I saw a thing on that. It's more about like plumbers and people, regular people who paid $5,000 a pop to go, and all of a sudden they're like, no, we're not doing it. And those people don't have $5,000. So they're stupid for spending $5,000 on it, but they lost their $5,000, got nothing for it. Which is pretty Trumpian when you think about it.
But you're supporting my thought that just let people experience it on their own and they will see. It doesn't mean you can't point to things and you can't try to educate people as things happen. That's going to have to happen because people won't believe it. They won't believe it unless it comes from somebody who they believe. And then some. So, that you almost have to overcome the algorithm of everybody's specific algorithm that's telling them exactly what they want to hear.
But let's go back. Let's go back to the regular person argument, because when you equate that with the fires in Southern California, there's a problem with Sacramento and the legislature in that even people who've lived there their whole lives but live in Northern California or Central California, their view of Los Angeles is just the red carpet people. It's the Gene Smarts of the world, and it's George Clooney and Brad Pitt and those people, and who, they live here sometimes. And they think that's what Hollywood is, but Hollywood is thousands, tens of thousands upon tens of thousands of craftspeople, of people who make movies, who you never hear their names behind it. They're dog handlers, they're food stylists, they're costumers, they're dry cleaners, they're, you name it. They're involved in the process. And those are the people who got wiped out. Yes. Did a few celebrities lose their homes? Yeah. But out of the 10,000 structures, maybe 50. So you need to look past that 50 celebrities and look at the just legions of people who work in this industry, who lost
and not work in this industry,
everything.
that work your dry cleaners, that work all these other businesses that support the people who live here.
That's correct.
It's way beyond that. It involves transportation. It involves food, restaurants, public services, road crews. I mean, anything that's part of the infrastructure of any other city in America, is right here. And, I've had nothing but supportive things from people all over the country saying, I can't believe what a devastating thing, blah, 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 blah. I mean, with the occasional like, wow, I'm glad that Mark Hamill, that left winger, his house burned, and James Woods, who's a Trump supporter, didn't, because and you're like going, really? First of all, neither of them lost their home, and from what I heard, I don't know that.
No, they didn't. I don't Neither of those people did.
Yeah. And secondly, it's like people are just looking for a hateful dialogue.
Yeah.
And if you get sucked into that, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Don't even bother, so, but which is exactly what I'm saying. Is like, it's not my responsibility to have conversations of discord with people who aren't going to, don't share my opinion. In fact, I could still even love some of those people from afar in some of the instances, but you know, uh, form your own opinions based on what you will see, because now that he's back in the spotlight, it will be right in front of you,
Hmm.
and you only have to believe what you see. And if you don't want to believe that, it's on you now.
Right.
It's on you fully, 100%.
Right. But Southern California absolutely is in a bad way right now.
It
And
is.
so, pursuant to that, I want to talk about today's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by StayinLA.org. Stay in LA is a grassroots coalition of over 5,000 engaged California residents. We range from film and TV production professionals and small business owners to blue-collar employees and high-level executives spanning many industries. Most importantly, we are Californians united for a common purpose. Stay in LA. When production stays in LA, every sector benefits: restaurants, retail, salon, hospitality, and beyond. We must restore our city's vibrant creative industry and lift the entire city of LA up in the process. Governor Newsom has already proposed increasing California's film, TV tax incentive to $750 million annually, which we applaud and urge the legislature to pass without delay. But we're at an existential moment for the city of Los Angeles. We need a targeted incentive that gives working people of LA a fighting chance to stay here. Because that's what's going on. Film production has been leaving the state for 20 years now, incrementally.
At least.
And what has happened in the last several years between the Writers Guild strike, the actors strike, COVID, and now the fires and consolidation and the drawing back of productions, the number of productions that places like Netflix are doing. It's cheaper, generally speaking, to shoot these due to tax incentives that are better in other places in the United States or countries. The currency exchange rates in Europe, in Canada, and South America. And what's happening is LA itself is not getting enough work to support the infrastructure of film technicians that work here, and actors and craftspeople, creators, writers, people who, these journeyman people you've, like I said before, that you've never heard of. But this is how they make their living. This is how we make our living. John and I both make our living like this. You've heard of him, but you've never heard of me. And most
sure we
people,
have.
only when you tell people about me, John.
Not true. I don't tell anybody about you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's quite the sentiment. But it is very important that we draw the film industry back to Southern California at this moment. You can fix the location, but without vocation, without people going back to work, it means nothing. People need to be able to support themselves and feed their children and educate their children. And this is somewhat of a situation. There are many generations now of Hollywood workers. This is California's fourth largest industry, and California is the fifth largest economy in the world. So if you think in terms of that, the amount of people it takes to make that something is vast, and they are disproportionately affected by this natural disaster because it happened just outside of exactly where they work, and in some cases right in the middle of where they work. So stay in LA. Stay in LA. Go to StayinLA.org, O-R-G, and sign the petition. Stay in LA is petitioning Sacramento to put in place a number of short-term, like lifting the cap, going past the $750 million cap to have an unlimited cap for the next 3 years. They want to include commercials, music videos, TV and film projects below $10 million because the current criteria is based on how many people a production employs. And so that kind of leans things towards like Marvel movies and projects that employ a lot of people. But when you look at the aggregate across all of the different disciplines of the entertainment industry, a lot more people are employed on the smaller projects. And the way to stimulate the recovery in LA is to lean into those smaller projects and not be giving all of the incentives to huge movies. So it's a complicated thing, but
It is complicated, but it comes down to this too, Steve, if I may interject. People are like, well, why should I care? It's the entertainment industry. You know, like you said earlier, people think that everybody here is, it's not. It's a real industry that works like any other industry and an important industry to everyone. Think of how much time you spend turning on your TV for the news, for entertainment, for addressing the world, nature, all the different things that you watch on a daily basis or involve yourself in. It all comes from this industry. And what would it be like without it?
mm-hmm.
You wouldn't even know if there was a fire on your back door. You wouldn't even have anything to take you away from your job when you came home to enjoy, to take you somewhere that you want to watch, sports, music, television, movies, all the different things that we rely on as a society, educational television, all these different things. And so it's not a frivolous industry. I get nothing makes me feel more than when school systems and stuff say, well, the first thing to go are the arts. It's like, are you kidding me? Think of how many people are enriched by the arts no matter what you decide to do in life, not to mention how many jobs it creates everywhere. Every city has a symphony. Every city has theaters. Every city has, sporting events. Every city has the kind of things that are brought to you by the entertainment industry, which really doesn't describe all of it at all, just by calling it an entertainment industry. It is the media as you know it. And the media as you know it is become the way that you get everything now. And so it's an important thing. And, bringing it from here has always been the highest standard. And I hope they continue to do that too. So,
well,
I hear you, Steve.
You just made me think of Winston Churchill during World War II when they were like scraping around for funds to keep fighting. There was this big proposal in Parliament. He said, well, let's cut funding for the arts. And Winston Churchill stood up and he said, if we cut funding for the arts, what are we fighting for? It's like, we're fighting for our culture. Art is our culture. It is the basis of all cultures everywhere. So you have to look at that for what it is. People telling stories is how we get through life. It's how we pass things on to our children. It's such a huge part of life. And the only thing that tries to diminish that is capitalism. And I don't have a problem with capitalism. Don't get me wrong. I'm a capitalist. But it has its place. But when it starts to color outside the lines, it starts to make culture for the cheapest amount of money, and they're not even necessarily good stories sometimes. They just fit into a demographic where they can make some money. You have to look at the whole. You really have to look at the whole. And, you just spoke to that, John. It's like, it's everything from music to sports to entertainment to television to films to music videos, anything that touches you. And so much of that is made in the United States, and it should continue to be made in the United States. It shouldn't go to Europe just because it's cheaper. And now there is a very, very good reason for it to stay specifically in Southern California, and that is recovery, fire recovery. And to go back to the charter of StayinLA.org, I just want to say, from their charter, we propose uncapping the tax incentive for productions that shoot in LA County for the next 3 years as part of the overall disaster relief effort. We urge Governor Newsom, the California legislature, Karen Bass, and the Los Angeles City Council to join forces right now and take emergency measures to help families. Hashtag StayinLA. By bringing back production. In addition, we call on studios and streamers to pledge at least 10% more production in LA over the next 3 years, demonstrating their dedication to the city's recovery and their long-term investment in LA's workforce. That's big. The streamers committing to 10%, that will make a massive, massive contribution. And I don't think people really understand what that means. It's an act of patriotism on the part of the studios, the streamers. If they call themselves American, invest in America. And the final thing here, there's a petition to petition Sacramento. Join over 5,000 film professionals, as of this morning, 6,000. Sign the petition at StayinLA.org. So go for it. Help your neighbor. Do it. Now, moving on. Never eat anything bigger than your head.
I love this segment. Never eat anything bigger than your head.
Well,
although last night when I was at Brent's Deli, they served, I wanted a half of sandwich with the soup. It was the rare. I had the rare roast beef, and it was bigger than any one sandwich I've ever eaten. And this is not a plug for Brent's Deli. It was something that I was eating that was bigger than my head. Anyway, and I thought of this segment. I thought of us talking about this segment. So what are we going to be talking about today when we say never eat anything bigger than your head?
Well, there's a film, and there's a film from 2020 called Butt Boy. And it's not about, it's relative. You can eat things bigger than your head. You can put things in your body in other ways that you really shouldn't. And Butt Boy is a movie about a guy who has this particular compulsion, and that's putting things in his butt. And it starts.
And when they say he puts everything up his butt, they mean like
everything. Like they notice, his kids start to notice that like very vital pieces of Legos that they need to build something are missing.
Where's the remote?
Where's the remote that his wife?
Where's the dog? Where's the dog?
Where's the dog? No, the dog never. That's a joke in the trailer. We'll show the trailer,
yeah.
But anyway, so he has this weird compulsion, and let's face it, people have weird compulsions, and sticking the remote up your butt, that counts. So he decides to go to L.A. L.A. He goes to A.A., not L.A. Well, he probably already lives in it. He decides to go to AA, and he doesn't really tell him why he's there. And but he's obviously a weird guy. And the way I understand the story, they give him a sponsor, and the sponsor is this detective, and the detective starts to investigate a serial killer, and it begins to become, because of weird things that this guy says, and kind of dancing around the fact that really he only just likes to stick stuff up his butt. He begins to think that this guy is the serial killer. And the whole thing unravels from there. So, and hilarity ensues. Um, I don't, I don't know. Well, we are going. I don't know what happened to Will, but we are going to at some point. We'll like weave in the trailer in here somewhere. But it's pretty weird. John, comments?
You're always looking for something different to watch. It's not for you and the kids. I mean, it's not for people who are disturbed by certain things. But I mean, there's so many. There's so much metaphor in all of this. Obviously, but it just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder about who wrote this and why.
Well, in the trailer, the only real reference to his actual compulsion at one point, he's holding a spatula, and he like looks at the spatula, and then he starts sticking it under his, and it's like, that's really the only reference they make to it. It's more about the serial killer thing. But I think
Right.
I think it's pretty interesting that just because this guy is very different, and obviously he just has a kink. Um, and that's equated with
It's
being
beyond,
a
it's
serial
beyond a
killer.
kink.
Yeah. I think he found I think he found every kink in his intestinal tract in some way or another. Yeah, I think you're right. It's a metaphor for people who are being different. This is an extreme metaphor, but
Yeah.
he's
Well, I don't know. It's I've never met a surgeon who said there wasn't a time they were on call where somebody didn't come in with something,
yeah,
that had to be manipulated out of their rectum.
yeah.
Wouldn't want to be on the other end of that, but that's so it is something that happens. So it's not like it's just a complete fantasy.
No, it's
But
not a fantasy. I mean, this has been on TV before. It's like, I think on Scrubs. I
oh,
don't know.
really?
They had what the,
Because that's not a fantasy.
no, that's not a that's not a fantasy. Yeah. Okay, point taken. Um, but they had there was some episode where someone had to give someone it's like it was somebody's anniversary and he'd forgotten about it, so he went to the butt box, and the nurses kept a butt box of things that had been extracted, and he took something out of the butt box and gave it to his
That's
wife.
great. I love that.
And then she realized I think she was a nurse there. She realized it was from the butt box. She had seen it before.
God, that reminds me of something that happened to me in elementary school where
Oh boy, this should be good.
Before teachers, wouldn't go to jail for doing unsavory things. But I had a teacher that if you got caught chewing gum,
Yeah.
they took the gum and they put it in a cardboard box beginning of the week. And at the end of the week, you had to blindly pull one of the gum out of the box and chew it. I swear, this happened.
This
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
That is just frightening. Oh,
Yeah.
we're watching Butt Boy now. So you I don't think they could do that today. I think that
Oh no!
I'm pretty
they would
sure
go to
that
jail for that today. There were things that I mean, corporal punishment is gone. I mean, still around in some sectors, they say, but this was really unsavory. The same teacher used to, if you
unsavory. I think that's
talk,
a way to put it.
Yes, exactly. It's pun intended. But the same teacher used to make you stand in the corner holding two encyclopedias if you were talking during class. For as long as you could. I mean, that's. This person I doubt she's still alive because she was old then. But
Yeah, none of these people are
you know,
alive. Yeah, we're barely alive
yeah,
at this point.
yeah, I know, right?
No, I mean, I remember the rulers across the knuckles. You couldn't do that today,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I mean, I had a friend who is this woman who was in Catholic school. She was a roommate of mine way back, and she said that the nun like caught her sort of like letting the boys see her underwear.
Oh,
So she made her sit in the trash can for an hour, but she said she sat in a way that the boys could see her underwear. So she had.
I'll get back at you.
That's right.
We'll have none of this.
None of this. Anyway, so enough of butt boy. So anyway, let's move on to the horrifying person of the week.
The horrifying person of the week.
Okay, my horrifying person of the week is Pete Hegseth.
Oh my God.
Who is probably going to get confirmed as the Secretary of Defense. The least qualified person to tote around the nuclear codes is, as opposed to Donald Trump, who's also not qualified. But the funniest thing I heard about him was that he was a DUI hire.
Really?
No, not DEI, DUI.
I know. I'm like going, oh my God. I was just letting everybody laugh at home and me playing the foil.
Yeah, for
going,
those of you that don't
really?
know, he's an alcoholic. If you follow Andy Borowitz, which I encourage everybody to follow, at the Borowitz Report, he had what did he do? He had Dry Tuesday, and he promised only to drink before work and never at the actual
During?
Pentagon.
Yeah.
This is a guy who had
And paid out $50,000 for raping, raping a woman as a settlement. And I mean, things like this. This is not somebody who, should be running the Pentagon.
No.
I'm sorry. It shouldn't be.
Yeah,
That's horrifying.
That's horrifying. Not to mention, running the Pentagon, you're talking about millions and millions of people. I think 3 million people report to the Secretary of Defense. And this is a logistics person that needs to do this. Not he was in the Marines, and he's apparently in the Marines. He served with distinction. But then he became a Fox News host and a sexual predator and an alcoholic. And, I don't think that his military service trumps all that stuff that came after. So, I'm very interested to see how long he lasts. I don't think, because he's truly horrifying.
Yeah. Well, they were even talking today about how even though, oh gosh, what's her name? She's
Pam Biondi?
Yes, thank you. Is prepare yourself for dealing with Trump's policies and then being able to have some good dialogue with the rest of the world.
Well, yeah.
It's just, it's just forget it. She's going to have to deal with his stuff at the same time. It's just, never mind getting confirmed. But, I guess my horrifying person of the week is Mark Rubio.
Marco Rubio?
has-
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Who has said that in Florida, people cannot get a passport if you can't apply for a passport if you are gay or transgender.
When did that happen?
Secretary of State Marco Rubio has scrapped U.S. passport applications allowing Americans to designate their gender identity as X after President Trump issued an executive order Monday It is now the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. Department staff were informed of the change of the internal cable sent. Staff were specifically instructed to suspend any application requesting an X sex marker and to suspend any application where the applicant is seeking to change their sex marker.
Even my dog doesn't like that.
Not at all,
So
because she likes to be called they.
she actually is.
They shat on the carpet last night.
No, it wasn't her. It was her. It was her older brother. And
Aw.
he shat all over, or had actually diarrhea all over a white couch. So,
Oh no, I
So-
love sitting on that couch. I guess I won't be anymore.
no, I sprung into action, John. It's
The cleaner. You're like Harvey Keitel. The cleaner.
the diarrhea cleaner. That's exactly what I am.
Yeah, we should have a whole discussion about this later because I'm going to have to research this a little
The
more
white
where this is
couch or
going.
the Florida thing?
No, the Florida thing, the whole thing with yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so they're basically suspending passports in process. It's not that if you're transgender, you can't get a passport. You can't say on a passport application that you are transgender.
Yeah, I mean that's
Those
the
are two different
moratorium that
things.
they are two different things, but I'm not sure that Florida didn't adopt a different policy because of it or something. I have to read up on it. That's why I'm what I just found and what I had read before are different. So I need to suss out the reality of that situation.
Yeah, well,
Whatever it is, it's horrifying.
we live in an alternate reality now with alternate facts, alternate people, alternate defense secretaries. Everything is suddenly alternate. So, anyway,
It's just so. It's what's amazing to me is that in every single speech of any one of these folks, especially coming from the top with our POTUS, is that there's something hypocritical going on. Whether it's saying these people need to be put out of the United States because whether they have a criminal record or not, they don't have any right to freedom. Yet I will put 1,600 convicted criminals back on the street
right.
who were televised doing their crimes, including attacking police and destroying the Capitol building and threatening the process of legitimizing the next president of the United States, who was Biden at that time. It's just like the hypocrisy just of that alone is like mind blowing.
Yeah, well, I heard a thing Scott Galloway said that it's basically a private army. He did that. So
Basically.
he has a private army now. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, 1,600 people, it's kind of a bit Khmer Rouge-y in a way.
Yeah.
Which is, that did not end well. So I think we're in really uncharted territory. Everything from that to, okay, I get.
Hey, listen, this is not the first time we've had an oligarchy in our country.
No, I completely agree
by
with that
definition.
statement.
And people are like, why would you call it that? Because by definition,
It is.
they're trying to do that. They may not want to call it that, but that's exactly what it is. And it's a legitimate government, but not one you're going to like. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you could tell, you can tell by the fact that he was inaugurated, and the people in the front row right behind him were three men who were worth $100 billion each, and that is a statement. He had Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk standing there. And that means I have all the money on my side. Don't screw with me. Don't even bother. We own you now. And
Yeah.
it's like that is my second place for most horrifying. Well, that's the most horrifying tableau of the week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's almost too easy to say the most horrifying person of the week is Donald Trump.
Yes,
I mean,
but we say that every week.
Yeah,
You know,
we say it every week.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that he would put people who have specific reasons to not do their job being put in cabinet positions because to not do their job would help them financially and would help them, become richer. And
Right.
Even some of them are even having like lawsuits that they could stop. Who's it? It was going to be the head of who was it that was had a lawsuit against? Was it Merck or something? I can't remember now. Crap. This is the problem with doing a podcast when your brain is old.
Well, that makes us unique, I think.
It does. Yes. Well, I don't know what the hell I'm saying, but we're eating the dogs, we're eating the cats, we're eating the pets of the people who live here.
4:00 in the afternoon at Cracker Barrel.
Oh yeah. Cracker Barrel doesn't serve food that good. Anyway, oh boy. No, I got nothing against Cracker Barrel.
No,
like
I don't have
Cracker
anything.
Barrel.
I was just going for a senior happy hour thing.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I actually, when we should talk on this podcast about getting older. There's no crime in that, even though, old people in Hollywood don't count. But, it's like I was having some memory lapses. And so my wife sent me to get checked out, and they checked me out. I had to go through, I went to a neurologist, went through this whole battery of tests. And so I went yesterday to get the results of to see if I had, because she thought I had early onset Alzheimer's, but I don't.
They just found a remote control up your butt. That's all.
They found the remote control. But he said, okay, you don't have, he goes, actually, when it comes to your memory, you're above average. He goes, but, and he said, you do have ADHD, and you've always had it. It's just, he said, as you age, this is interesting. As you age, the way you kind of cover for it intellectually starts to diminish. So it can then present itself in your 60s as memory problems. When they're actually not memory problems, they're attention and focus problems.
Yes.
And he goes, when you were young, when you were in school, they didn't diagnose this stuff. I said, yeah, you were just stupid.
Not at all. Yeah. You were disruptive and not participating and not doing and lazy.
And I was all those things. And
as was I.
It's funny. I was talking to Molly, the COO of WPA, because I had told her I was doing this stuff, and she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "You're ADHD? That's not news to me."
Yeah, right.
You're just figuring that. She goes, "I thought you knew." I said, well, no. But as soon as he said it, a whole lot of things made sense.
Yeah, I have to go see your doctor.
Yeah. Well, there's a pill for that.
Is there? Is it working?
Well, I took it yesterday. I took it this morning. I don't know. I didn't even know I was ADHD for the last 65 years. I don't. Am I supposed to like realize now that my attention's better?
I don't know.
I guess I have to see. He said, look, if after a few days, if you're,
What
you
are they
don't-
giving you, Adderall?
well, I said, well, when he said it, he goes,
Isn't that what they give people with ADHD? Yeah,
well, they do, but because what I said to him,
that's severe, right?
yeah, well, that's severe. What I said to him when he said it, he said he was going to prescribe a medication for me. I said, like Ritalin, and he just started laughing. He goes, we don't do that anymore. He said, there's much.
No, we're thinking shock therapy or a lobotomy
thinks-
is really what we're thinking about.
And then for some reason he yelled clear. And and everything went colorful.
just bite down on this.
Bite down on this. Yeah, so yeah, that's
Interesting.
yeah, I think that should we cover age on this podcast as a general theme? Even though we're calling it, I don't know. No, we shouldn't. But if it comes up, I think it.
But this segment's called Your Hip, My Knee.
Your brain, my foot.
Today's segment, what was that guy's name again? You know who I'm talking about.
You know,
The guy who his job is and he went to he lives in he wears a blue suit with a tie.
I have to say, John, you've done a little of that during this podcast.
Yeah, I have not had a lot of sleep. I think is part of it with everything that's been going on. I do feel less brightly focused.
Well, I think that's everybody.
And emotional. I mean, it's an emotional time too. Not only, I mean, because of all the fires and the things. I mean, I've had a lot of friends affected very, very deeply, and as well as I can't watch it day in and day out. My wife will put it on just to make sure that our neighborhood's not on fire or whatever, and you're sitting there watching just shot after places that we've experienced for the last 45 years, just going through the neighborhoods here, and it's gone, but but not on top of that, just being ultra aware of what's going on around you and that kind of thing. You sleep a little with one eye open because of all this and not having power. I mean, our power just came back on last night finally after another 2 days of no power. And, like I said, over the span of since the day before the first fire, when the wind started and they turned off our power, I think we've gone maybe 11 or 12 days without power on and off. The longest stint, I think, was from when was
that
maybe
first one? Was the
8
first
days?
8 days?
Yeah, I think we had. No, it
no.
wasn't 8 days.
It was 4 days, and then it was like it was on for
Came
2
back
days,
on and went back
then went
off.
off for 3 days. Then came back on, went off for 2 days. It's like it. But if that is the sum total of our grievance in this situation,
No, I feel
that,
I still get up with gratitude every morning.
yeah,
that
and go
our
right
that,
to your bidet.
Yes, right.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's right. Bring it back around. It's framing. So, no, I have it in one of my, I think it's my Substack bio, that I truly believe that if we took all of the defense funding for every country in the world and we just bought every single person of 8 billion up a day, we would have peace on earth.
Probably.
Yeah. Because for one reason or another, just people just, confident their ass is clean, or like Butt Boy, they like things shot up there.
Hey, listen, there are a number of nations that it is part of their plumbing. It's just what it is. We're behind, pun intended, on that on that technology. It's kind of like
Whereby-
tattoos. We now have probably covered people. The last two generations are covered in tattoos, like yourself and myself. But historically, we were one of the only cultures that didn't have it as a cultural part of our past. Tattooing was something that's been in most cultures.
Yeah,
prior to
because
that.
we're descendants of Puritans. We're like,
Yeah.
I think
Well, it was the sailors that started bringing tattoos to the United States. They'd be somewhere else in some port, and they'd get a tattoo, and
I know,
there you go.
but
And now
Yeah.
we're all under each other's skin.
yeah, that brings it right back around. Okay, well, we should. I think we're going to wrap it up now, but I do want to, even though we
Yes.
don't have sponsors, it's just we plugging things. I do want to plug Watch Duty, the app Watch Duty. This is a nonprofit company that does this. This is a lot of volunteers, and Watch Duty was instrumental in providing some people in LA during the fires with information and safety and understanding where the fire was and exactly when it was time to run for the hills.
Up to the moment, evacuation
Yep.
zones. Up to the moment, what was burning and what facilities were on the scene. Up to the moment, wind conditions. Up to the moment, weather conditions. I mean, everything. The app's amazing. It's amazing.
The app is amazing, and I do believe it saved a lot of lives in here. So even though we don't receive money from them, they are nonprofit. I do think it's important to plug things that are good for us, and Watch Duty is good for us. And StayinLA.org is good for us. So whether you live in California or not, go to StayinLA.org and sign the petition. The more names that go to Sacramento, the more likely the lobby will be able to affect change and save the economy of Los Angeles and Hollywood. So, from Hollywood,
You're listening to Radio Free Hollywood, Episode 1.
and C.
This has been Radio Free Hollywood.
Radio Free
This has
Hollywood.
been Radio
This has
Free
been
Hollywood.
Radio Free Hollywood.